Imagine, in the dead of night, a woman wakes up to a blood-curdling scream. She locks herself in her room while blood seeps from under the door. What happens next is one of the most horrifying tragedies in Hawaii's history. A father who should have been the protector instead turns into a killer of his own family. But what drove Paris Oda, a successful chiropractor and a loving father, to commit such an unimaginable act? Was this purely due to financial pressure, or was there a dark side to his personality that had been hidden all along? How does a narcissist reach the point where they sacrifice the very people they claim to love the most? This story is not just about crime, but also about how life's pressures, a narcissistic personality, and depression can push someone to the brink of destruction. Through this video, we will thoroughly dissect what really happened to the Oda family, the warning signs that were missed, and the valuable lessons we can learn from this tragedy. So watch until the end, because this is a story that will make you reflect deeply. Before this horrific tragedy occurred, the Oda family was the perfect picture of a happy family. They lived in Manoa, a quiet and peaceful neighborhood in Honolulu, Hawaii. Paris Oda, the father, was a successful chiropractor with his practice near Ala Moana Center, one of the largest shopping centers in Hawaii. He was known as a friendly, hard-working man who deeply loved his family. Nanako, his wife, was a loving woman from Japan. She often helped Paris at his clinic and was known as a very attentive mother to their 3 children, Sakura, Oren, and Nana. Sakura, the eldest, was 17 years old and preparing to graduate from high school. She aspired to become a nurse and had a great passion for cooking. In fact, she and her mother had once run the Hapalua Marathon together in 2019, finishing the race just 3 places apart. Oren, the youngest son, was a 6th grader at seeps charter school. He was known as a cheerful and kind-hearted boy, always bringing smiles to those around him. Meanwhile, Nana, the youngest daughter, was a student at Manoa Elementary School. Although shy, Nana was always considerate of others and had a gentle heart. The Oda family's daily life was filled with simple joys. Every Christmas, they decorated their home beautifully, spreading cheer throughout the neighborhood. Paris was even known as a model father. One of his employees, Cami Divers, once shared how Paris would wake up early to prepare breakfast and pack lunches for his children while letting Nako sleep in. "You're such a good husband," Cami praised him. However, behind all that happiness, something was beginning to crack. Although the Oda family appeared perfect from the outside, the pressures of life were slowly eating away at them. And most shockingly, it all centered around Paris, a father who had always been seen as the pillar of the family, but who, in reality, harbored an unexpected dark side. Although the Oda family appeared happy, signs of trouble slowly began to emerge. The first noticeable change came in December 2023, when their home, usually adorned with festive Christmas decorations, suddenly looked dark and empty. Neighbors started to wonder what had happened to the Oda family. Paris, who was usually friendly and cheerful, began to change. He became more withdrawn, gloomy, and often seemed to carry a heavy burden on his shoulders. His employees at the chiropractic clinic also started to notice this shift. Cami Divers, one of his employees, shared that Paris no longer smiled as he used to. Some patients asked, "What's going on with Dr. Oda? He's been so quiet lately," Cami said. Even his patients sensed that something was wrong. As it turned out, Paris's behavioral changes didn't happen without reason. Financial troubles began to haunt the Oda family. Paris had been struggling with debt for years. In 2021, the owner of the building where his clinic was located sued him for failing to pay rent for several months. His debt had reached nearly $90,000, although Paris eventually settled the case by paying $53,000. His financial problems didn't end there. In addition to the rent debt, Paris also faced a state tax lien of $7,810 in June 2023. He was even forced to sell personal assets, such as a 2013 Ford truck and a treadmill, to try to cover his financial needs. However, all these efforts seemed insufficient. His chiropractic business began to decline, and to make ends meet, Paris had to work as an Uber driver. This pressure increasingly weighed on his mental health. Nanoko, his wife, tried to support Paris in every way she could. She even suggested they move to Japan, where her parents could help them start a new life. However, Paris refused. He felt trapped in a situation he couldn't handle. Neighbors also began to notice that the Oda family looked sad and not their usual selves. One person even said, "Seeing their children walk past my house, I could see sadness in their eyes." All these signs should have been warnings. Unfortunately, no one realized how serious Paris's struggles were, until finally the pressure reached its breaking point and changed everything forever. Paris Oda's financial troubles didn't happen overnight. They were the result of years of mounting financial pressure, which worsened significantly after the COVID-19 pandemic hit. Although Paris had worked hard to keep his chiropractic business afloat, the tough economic conditions pushed him further into despair. In 2021, Paris was sued by the owner of the building where his clinic was located for failing to pay rent for several months. His debt had reached nearly $90,000. Although he eventually settled the case by paying $53,000, his financial problems didn't stop there. Paris also received a Paycheck Protection Program, PPP loan of $26,995 during the pandemic to help pay his employees' salaries. This loan was eventually forgiven, but other debts continued to pile up. In June 2023, Paris had to settle a state tax lien of $7,810. This was a heavy blow to him, as his business was no longer generating enough income to cover his family's living expenses. In a desperate attempt to raise cash, Paris sold his personal assets, including a 2013 Ford truck for $20,000 and a treadmill for $800. However, none of this was enough to address his deepening financial crisis. Paris tried every possible way to support his family. He even started working as an Uber driver to supplement his income. But the relentless financial pressure made him feel trapped. He believed there was no way out of this situation. In January 2024, Paris contacted a real estate agent to sell their $1.7 million home in Manoa. However, the process of selling the house wasn't as smooth as he had hoped, and the pressure continued to mount. This financial strain didn't just affect Paris's wallet, it took a toll on his mental health as well. He began to withdraw from his family and friends. His co-workers noticed that Paris was no longer the cheerful and friendly person he used to be. He often appeared gloomy, as if carrying a heavy burden on his shoulders. Even his patients sensed this change. "He's been so quiet lately," said one of his patients. Paris felt there was no way out of his financial troubles. He began talking about suicide and even threatened to take his family with him. This pressure reached its peak in March 2024, when Paris felt he could no longer hold on. And on that fateful night, everything he had been feeling, despair, anger, and shame, exploded into an unimaginable act. In February 2024, the pressure on Paris Oda reached its breaking point. The unrelenting financial struggles, coupled with shame and despair, led him to consider the unthinkable: suicide. However, Paris didn't want to do it alone. In his dark thoughts, he believed his family should go with him. Paris began discussing his plan with Naoko, his wife. In a chilling conversation, he told her that they needed to plan to do it. He said, "I can't handle this anymore. Our children have to come with us because no one else can take care of them as well as we can." Naoko, trying to remain optimistic, rejected this idea. She suggested they move to Japan, where her parents could help them start a new life. But Paris was already too far gone in his despair. "I'm exhausted," he said. "I just can't do it anymore." After that conversation, Paris withdrew even further. He became eerily quiet and seemed like someone carrying an unbearable burden. Neighbors and co-workers noticed he was no longer the same. Even his children, Sakurako, Oren, and Nana, appeared sadder and more subdued. Someone who knew the family remarked, "I could see something was wrong just by looking into their eyes." Paris didn't just talk about suicide. He also began threatening to kill his family and burn their house down. In his desperation, he even attempted to obtain a firearm. He contacted someone with a horrifying request. He wanted to buy a gun. Fortunately, the person didn't respond to his request. However, this didn't stop Paris from moving forward with his sinister plan. By early March 2024, the pressure had intensified. Tax season was approaching, and Paris felt he was out of time. He contacted the real estate agent again, hoping to sell their house before it was too late. But his hopes were dashed when the sale process didn't go smoothly. Paris felt trapped, and in his despair, he decided that the only way out was to end everything, including the lives of his family. That night, March 9th, 2024, Paris took a kitchen knife from their home. In the darkness of the night, something inside him completely shattered, and what happened next was a tragedy that would shake Hawaii and leave a deep wound in the hearts of everyone who knew the Oda family. That night, March 9, 2024, the Oda family home in Manoa appeared as calm and peaceful as ever. No one could have imagined that within a few hours the house would become the site of a horrific massacre. It all began when Paris, the father, took a kitchen knife from their home. Paris, who could no longer bear the pressure and despair, decided to end it all. He started by attacking his wife, Noko, who was sleeping in the master bedroom. Noko, who tried to fight back, was no match for her husband. Paris stabbed her repeatedly, leaving fatal wounds. Noko's screams woke their children, but it was too late. Sakurako, 17 years old, was the next victim. She tried to protect her younger siblings, but Paris quickly overpowered her. Sakurako, who dreamed of becoming a nurse, died from severe wounds. Orjin, the 12-year-old youngest son, also couldn't save himself. He was found dead in his bed with stab wounds to his chest. Nana, the 10-year-old youngest daughter, tried to escape, but Paris chased her down. She was found dead on the bedroom floor with wounds on her back. Amid the chaos, a tenant living on the lower floor was awakened by the horrifying screams. They locked themselves in their room, too afraid to come out. However, they saw something that terrified them even more. Blood began seeping under their door. They tried calling 911 but didn't dare speak loudly, fearing Paris might hear them. After killing his family, Paris stood in the middle of the blood-soaked, devastated house. In a final act of despair, he turned the knife on himself. Paris died in the hallway of his home, the knife still clutched in his hand. That night, the entire Oda family perished in one horrifying night. When the police arrived the next day, they were met with a gruesome scene. 5 lifeless bodies lay in the house that was once filled with laughter and happiness. Blood pooled on the floors and the air was thick with an eerie silence. This tragedy not only destroyed the Oda family, but also shook the entire Manoa community. When news of the Oda family tragedy spread, the entire Manoa community was struck with shock and profound grief. How could a family that seemed so happy and harmonious end in such a horrific way? That question echoed in the minds of everyone who knew them. Neighbors who often saw the Oda family going about their daily lives couldn't hide their sorrow. "This doesn't make sense," said one neighbor. They were such a good family. Every Christmas, they decorated their house beautifully. Their children were always seen playing outside, laughing and having fun. Friends of Sakurako, Oren, and Nana also struggled to accept the reality that their cheerful, spirited friends were gone so tragically. The tragedy also left deep wounds for the students and staff at the schools the Oda children attended. Alani's school, where Sakurako was a student, held a special morning prayer service to provide comfort to grieving students and staff. CX Charter School, where Oran studied, sent a letter to parents informing them that crisis counselors were available to help students process their emotions. Meanwhile, Manoa Elementary School, where Nana was a student, also provided a crisis intervention team to assist young children who might not fully understand what had happened. In front of the Oda family home, a small memorial began to grow. Flowers, candles, and messages of support filled the steps of the house. A pink teddy bear was left for Nana, with a note that read, "We love you." Many people who didn't even know the Oda family personally came to pay their respects. "This is a tragedy that affects all of us," said a woman who left flowers at the memorial. "I haven't been able to stop crying all day." The Oda family tragedy didn't just leave sadness. It also left fear and uncertainty. Many began to wonder, how could this happen in our quiet, safe neighborhood? One neighbor said, "This is such a peaceful area. You can walk around at night without fear." But now everything feels different. This tragedy serves as a reminder to all of us about the importance of mental health and social support. Many people struggle in silence, carrying burdens too heavy to bear alone. The story of the Oda family is a heartbreaking reminder that we must be more attentive to those around us and not hesitate to offer help when we see warning signs. The story of the Oda family is a tragedy that leaves many questions and deep sorrow. From their happy life in Manoa, to the unbearable financial pressures, to the horrific night that changed everything, we've seen how life's stresses and mental health struggles can push someone to the brink of destruction. Paris Oda, a father who should have been the protector, instead became the source of the tragedy that destroyed his own family. Yet, from this story, we can draw valuable lessons. First, it's crucial to recognize warning signs in ourselves or those around us. Depression, financial stress, and feelings of being trapped are serious issues that should never be ignored. Second, never hesitate to seek help, whether it's from family, friends, or professionals. Help is available and can be life-saving. If you or someone you know is struggling, don't let them fight alone. Talk, listen, and offer support. Sometimes one heartfelt conversation can make a huge difference. Let's use this story as a reminder to care more deeply for those around us. For the Oda family, though their story ended tragically, may they find peace. And for all of us, let's strive to create a world where no one feels alone in their struggles. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you believe there are signs we can learn from to prevent tragedies like this in the future? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more compelling content. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.